show you some big wave spots in the North Pacific that absolutely go nuts.
And we're going to show you why these spots go nuts. What's really going on. It's rare to find a surf spot that can produce huge, perfect waves. How big can it really get? Some of the largest surf on the planet is found at Waimea Bay, Outer Log Cabins, Jaws, Mavericks, Todos Santos Island, and the infamous Cortez Bank. What makes each one of these spots so special? The answer lies on the bottom, on the ocean floor. What happens below the surface of the water is the secret to developing these huge waves. Each one of these spots has something very special going on with the underwater topography, which we call bathymetry. Radically abnormal bottom contours on the ocean floor help to focus and magnify huge amounts of wave energy to create these monstrous waves. But beyond looking at the ocean floor, every big wave spot also has its own set of variables needed to create these huge surfable waves. And we need to look for a special type of storm to develop the right kind of waves for each spot.
It starts with a storm, a low pressure storm that brews somewhere in the ocean far away from where you're at.
Whether a surfer rides big waves or small waves, every surfer is actually a surf forecaster. Before entering the water, a surfer always calculates the waves, the tide, the current, the wind, and even the crowd to score the best possible surf. Every surfer should also understand how waves are generated and how wave energy interacts with the ocean floor so they can better understand the surf.
The storm moves around, and I don't know all that mumbo jumbo Mike does, but no, the fact of the matter is that it's energy.
We should get Sean to tell him about waves.
Yeah, let's listen to Sean, see what he has to say.
Most surfers look at waves from a two-dimensional perspective, the size of the waves and the direction from which they're coming. But waves really are three-dimensional, and that third dimension, which we're going to call the X factor, is the wave energy and how deep that goes below the surface of the ocean. Now, the X factor can have a huge effect on the final size of the waves. It can turn a 10-foot wave into a 12-foot wave or a 50-foot wave. But before we go there and explain why that happens, we need to cover a few basics. So here's a little bit of Surfology 101.
Waves are created by wind. As the wind blows over the ocean, energy from the wind is transferred into the water. When the wind first begins to blow over a glassy ocean surface, the initial waves are just tiny ripples on the surface of the water. As the wind increases and continues to blow over a period of time, like in a storm, more and more energy is transferred into the ocean, and the ripples and the waves become much larger. The ripples eventually grow into small wind chop, then big whitecaps, then larger wind waves, then bigger waves, and then finally into large swells. As a simple rule, the stronger the wind and the longer it blows over the greatest distance of ocean, the bigger the waves. The end result will be more energy transferred into the ocean from the wind, resulting in larger waves and swell. As the wave heights increase, more and more energy is also transferred deeper into the ocean. As this happens, the waves grow further apart and the swell period increases between the waves. Swell period is a measurement of time in seconds between waves as they pass a stationary point like a buoy. And the X factor we referred to earlier, well, it's swell period. You see, swell period is a consistent measurement of the swell energy in deep water. The longer the swell period, the deeper the energy goes below the ocean's surface. As an example, waves with a 10-second swell period has energy extending 250 feet below the ocean's surface, while waves with a 20-second swell period has energy extending 1,000 feet below the ocean's surface. That's a heck of a lot of energy that goes really deep. And when the waves begin to move in from deep water to shallow water, all of that extra wave energy hidden below the ocean's surface will be pushed upward to become a much larger wave. As the waves move in and begin to feel the changing depths in the ocean floor, they will turn and refract towards shallower water. This process can merge and combine wave energy into much larger waves than normal. Again, when we closely investigate each of our big wave spots, they all have a very unique shape and contour in the ocean floor, which helps to combine extra wave energy into very large waves. It might be a huge underwater canyon like at Jaws, or it might be a shallow ledge sticking way out there like Mavericks. both of which magnify the extra swell energy and focus it towards shallow water. The end result is a super multiplier, or incredible growth of the waves from deep to shallow water. And this is the secret to all of our big wave spots. But how big can it get? Each one of our big wave spots in the North Pacific has a set limit, which is when the waves become so big, they will begin to close out and become unsurfable by any means.
What does it do if it comes from this direction?
As we investigate all of our North Pacific big wave spots, we'll find out where the biggest waves are, and which spots also have the potential to produce waves over 100 feet high. Our first stop is Waimea Bay, located in Hawaii on the north shore of Oahu. Waimea Bay is a world-renowned paddle-in spot and the prime location for the historical Quicksilver Eddie Aikau contest every winter. The contest is held when the deep water swells reach 20 feet or more, resulting in massive 30 to 50-foot drops. Collins tells us a little more about it.
Contrary to most big wave spots, Waimea seems to prefer waves with lots of energy in the lower swell periods, right about 15 seconds or so. Waves with longer swell periods have deeper wave energy, so they feel the offshore reefs and focus more toward another big wave spot called outer log cabins. The best storms that generate ideal waves for Waimea Bay are usually located within 1,200 miles northwest of Oahu. The farther away a storm is, the more the wave sizes will decay before reaching the surf spot. Swells from storms further away generally just don't have enough punch to create the kind of raw energy needed to create huge waves at Waimea. As the waves approach the takeoff zone at Waimea, they rise extremely quickly over a very shallow ledge to create a fast, critical drop. The middle of the bay is deeper due to the flow of fresh water out of the Waimea Valley, which is cut through rock and coral over thousands of years. All surf spots, whether they're small wave spots or big wave spots, all need a special kind of a bottom. And the best surfing waves are created when there's an irregular bottom contour which goes from shallow to deep. The waves, as they move in over this variance of deep and shallow water, naturally focus and turn in towards the shallower water. What that does is not only does it create a little bit larger wave from the deep water, but it also creates a breaking wave which breaks from one side to the other. And as surfers, this is really what we're looking for. We're looking at a wave that breaks from one side to the other so we can surf down the line. When the waves come in and reach a flatline depth where the depth is constant all the way across, the wave will lose its shape and close out. Whether it's a small wave, a medium-sized wave, or a huge wave, closed out waves are poor for surfing because we can't surf them. Once the waves reach about 50 feet on the face, the ledge at Waimea stops having the same kind of effect on the wave shape and break in deeper water in the middle of the bay. So due to that water depth, we figure the largest surfable wave at Waimea would be about 55 feet on the face before it begins to close out.
On a big day with a good set of binoculars, you might have seen outer log cabins, located just a couple miles to the northwest of Waimea Bay on Oahu's north shore. Sean explains more.
The reef at outer log cabins is a total wave magnet. It's located nearly a mile offshore and is at the southern edge of a massive coral reef that extends all the way around the north shore of Oahu. The reef turns in close to shore at this location and creates a type of abnormal bottom contours of variance between deep and shallow water, which all of our big wave spots prefer. This portion of the reef is also responsible in part for the great-shaped waves of the infamous Bonsai Pipeline located closer to shore. The waves wrap and bend in over the outside reef at outer log cabins and then help to create the left breaking waves along the inside reef at Pipeline. The biggest swells for outer log cabins come from storms that are located within 2,000 miles of Hawaii. The depth of the reef prefers swells with longer swell periods when the reef can magnify the waves up to 3 to 4 times their original height. Outer log cabins doesn't even really start firing until the waves reach about 40 feet on the face. Probably some of the biggest waves ever ridden in surfing history took place here on January 28, 1998. These waves were created by a strong El Niño storm located 1,000 miles north of Hawaii. Ken Bradshaw reportedly rode an 80-foot wave in that day, and others rode numerous waves in the 60-foot plus range. And how big can the waves get at outer log cabins? Well, after studying the reef, we calculate the largest rideable waves at outer log cabins could be around 90 feet on the face before the waves become unrideable and close out.
Our next location is also in Hawaii, but it's on the north shore of the island of Maui. It's called Jaws.
Jaws is one of those freaks of nature that every surfer should try to see in person at least once in their lifetime. Many swells from the west are blocked from reaching Jaws by the island of Molokai to the north. Once a storm moves further to the north, the swell will be able to fill in around the corner of Molokai and focus its energy towards Jaws. The ocean floor at Jaws is incredibly unique with an extremely deep trench very close to shore. This underwater trench was dug out by massive amounts of fresh water flowing out of the Piahi Valley over thousands of years. The water depth in the trench is more than 100 feet deep, right next to a very shallow reef only 20 feet, which is where the waves break. You may notice all of the boats and people floating in a safe zone right over the deepwater trench where the waves don't break. Again, this radical difference in water depth is the secret to the big waves at Jaws. Wave energy passing over the deep water of the trench bends in aggressively toward the shallow water over the reef. This combination of extra energy converging over the reef helps the waves to become 3 to 5 times larger than their original height in deep water.
We get to Jaws, we're like, okay, here it is, let's pull up and look at it. We pull up and look at it, and it's just like, yeah, basically, you know what I mean? I'm going, no wonder they call it Jaws, because your jaw just goes woof, like this when you look at it.
We kind of pulled way inside, and we're just like fully taken back, like, you gotta be kidding me. There's these big, perfect spitting tubes, just one after another coming through, and we see Laird on this wave, and he's like flying all over the thing on like a 6'4" or something, and he does this huge kick out and flies like 20 feet in the air.
I don't know if you've seen any of the footage of Laird, but he's so secure and solid out there. He weighs like 400 pounds, and then he has like a 200-pound board, so there's like, he's just like air, yeah, this is great. He's probably ridden like 500 waves out there, It's like a completely different deal, and that wave's so perfect and good that, you can attack it, if you know how it moves and what it's doing, and I just felt like a deer in the headlights kind of thing, just like, yikes,
Neither of us had ever ridden a wave there, and
then here it is, you're driving in there, never surfed it before, never towed it, nothing, so I'm like, well, I hope I'm putting him in the right spot. Looks like it's going this way. Looks like it's going that way. You know, just hope I don't kill my buddy, you know, and then the ski's super tippy canoe, and it's like, whoa, and I'm like, okay, I think I better get out of here now before I can't get out anymore, you know? And he gets his first wave and then comes back out, and he's just going, dude, that was the biggest wave. That was as big as my Cortez wave. I can't even believe, dude, it was so gnarly. And he's like, hey, don't put me so deep next time. And I'm like, all right.
It's like, right on, cool, okay. And I'm like, look, Brad, do not put me that deep, because we're sort of used to like Todos and a few of the other waves that we tow at. We come across the peak from deep and let go. I'm all good. That was like, I made that thing by an inch. If you put me any deeper, it's over.
We wait, and then we get this next set, and we wait for the second one, you know, just waiting for the biggest one.
Sure enough, we just see this, you know, the whole horizon's just going, stacking, and we're like, oh, this is, it's on right now. This could be the, whatever, wave of the day, I don't know. I'm just thinking to myself, here we go. We float over one or two, and we're pulling into this thing, and I'm thinking, this is it. This thing's a bomb. And
I'm going, okay, I'm driving down the thing again, and I'm going, okay, don't put him so deep this time. Okay, I guess I better get out on the shoulder, and I'm like going over here, and I look back, and he's already let go, and I'm like, dude, good luck.
was so bumpy going down it, I was thinking turn, but I couldn't set my edge.
And then I'm riding behind the wave thinking, oh my God, oh please, 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 please don't let him eat it.
All I remember is just getting blown, just all this spray and spit. It felt like I got shot out of a cannon. It just blew me like 4 times faster than I was going. And then the wave kind of clipped me at the end, but I was just so stoked. I was screaming at Gerd, dude, I think I just got a 10, I got barreled. And
I'm like, are you kidding me? And I kind of saw people as we were driving back out going, oh, you know, like that. I'm like, all right, killer. But I knew that I still had to surf. So I couldn't go, yeah, oh my God, insane. You know, I couldn't do that because I was like, I still have to surf.
Jaws, the energy of the wave goes all the way to the cliff. I mean, it's like the thing doesn't slow down. So if you fall at Jaws, I mean, it is on. You have issues. You have to get rescued. There's no way you're getting out of there on your own because the energy just goes all the way until the cliff.
extremely big. I think it was my 4th wave to let go early, and it was just the worst time to let go early because it was the first wave of a 4-wave set, and as soon as I let go, the wave just backed off and peaked, you know, like a football field away, and I went, oh, fuck that. And I turned to straighten out, and God, I was, you know, a bunch of thoughts are going through my head. First thing was, oh man, you know, like, why me, man? And then after that, it was just, you know, and I can't even relate like what it was like. It's like standing on the end of a teeter-totter and having like Shaq just jump from like the 2nd story and like landing on the teeter-totter, and you just going, ba-boom! Slater comes by and I'm like, all right, bro, cool, you're gonna get me, and he missed me. And I like the sled came by and I was like, eeh, trying to reach for the sled, and I missed it, you know, and I never miss it, you know. And I was like, yeah. So and then I'm like, the rope. I grabbed the rope and I was behind the ski with the rope, but the waves like chasing him down. So he's like, I gotta go. I gotta go. You probably want to let go. And I'm like going, take me out of here, and like water's going out my nose, like, you know, and then finally I had to let go of the rope, and then finally someone pulled me off to the side. But it was like, it was pretty rad feeling being able to be like, I'm okay, you know, like it was amazing. Like I couldn't believe it.
They missed him though, huh?
They got him. They just got him.
They got him in there.
And how big can the waves get at Jaws and still be rideable? We calculate the waves can reach 95 feet on the face before they begin to close out almost a mile offshore. This is where the ocean floor becomes more regular at about 100 feet deep, which is where the waves would close out.
And now we move to the mainland of the United States. It's called Mavericks, and it's at Half Moon Bay in Northern California.
know what? I think the thing about Mavericks is it has the ability to rip you, rip your limbs off. And that's, one guy that we know, Evan, is a good friend of mine, and he took a wave that was a lot smaller than any towing wave, even though it was a very thick wave. It was more like a 20-foot wave, not a 30-foot wave, and it just almost ripped his leg off. So when you surf 15-foot or 20-foot Mavericks a lot, you realize, hey, the lip, where the lip lands, that's the most dangerous thing. And avoiding that is the most critical thing. Then holding your breath and stuff, that's more controllable. But having your back or neck broken or your arm pulled off or something, that's not something that I don't think anybody, maybe Jeff, and nobody else really can survive. So
I can't stress this enough, but after you're done, you might think the worst beating of your life is over. It might have just begun, because you're gonna have to deal with a couple of more waves and then these rocks that are like a brick wall. And I just gone to the point this year of getting to these rocks and realizing how quick it came up and how quick you have to think to get your leash off or pull your pin, get away from that board, find, I don't know how wide of a gap it is between a couple of these rocks, thread the needle, and then sit in the bay and count your blessings. And then I've seen seals, they're talking to sharks, people are getting bit out there. Who knows what there is else to deal with. But so if it isn't one thing that's gonna get you, it's another that's gonna get your heart rate enough that if you have a fin valve up there, pop. For sure.
The best swells from Mavericks are created by storms within 1,500 miles, which generally occur in the Gulf of Alaska. Mavericks has a wide exposure to the raw swell energy of the North Pacific, although the underwater banks located near the Farallon Islands off San Francisco can occasionally interfere with some northwest swells. The ocean floor at Mavericks presents a radical shallow water ledge that extends almost a mile out to sea from Pillar Point. The south side of the ledge drops off quickly from 20 feet deep to more than 80 feet deep. Like all of our big wave spots, these radical depth contours in the ocean floor help to magnify incredible wave energy over the shallow water. As the swells approach Mavericks, wave energy passing over the deep water bend inward toward the shallow water. This combination of extra energy converging over the shallow ledge helps the waves to become 3 to 4 times larger than their original height in deep water.
With Mavericks, the reef is set up like my hand, you don't, just my hand. I mean, literally it's a ledge, so you always got that same kind of thing, where it jacks up and there's deep ruts, it jacks up again, it jacks up again. So you do get the wave kind of moving up and jacking and slowing off and jacking and slowing off.
Once the waves reach over 40 feet on the face, they begin to break in much deeper water. There's an outside ledge outside of the main peak where occasionally you see large waves feather much further out to sea. You can see on the charts that the actual shape of that outer ledge is really good for creating better shaped waves and kind of feed the inside main peak at Mavericks. A classic example is a 68-foot wave that Carlos Burley got a couple years ago, which feathered on the outside reef before just heaving over the main peak on the inside. And how big can it get? Well, the reef at Mavericks begins to lose its shape in about 80 feet of water, so we calculate Mavericks can produce rideable waves up to 85 feet on the face before the waves begin to close out.
From Northern California to Baja California, we move south of the border to Todos Santos Island. This island is located just 10 miles off the coast of Ensenada, Mexico, which is about 60 miles south of the U.S. border.
Todos has wide exposure to swells from the west and northwest generated by storms in the Gulf of Alaska. Now, swells from the north-northwest will be partially blocked by Cortez Bank and the Channel Islands, located about 120 miles to the northwest. An underwater canyon forms a trench just off the northwest tip of Todos Santos Island, which surfers call killers. The waves approach out of very deep water and rise quickly over a shallow water shelf extending just off the tip of the island. As the waves pass over the underwater canyon, the wave energy bends in from the deep water over the canyon toward the shallow shelf where the waves break. Like Mavericks, this combination of extra energy converging from deep water toward the shallow ledge helps the waves to become 3 to 4 times larger than their original height in deep water.
Todos, it just jacks straight up. It doesn't have the wall of a Jaws or Mavericks, and it's not as heavy of a wave, but it sure does stand up tall. And it's powerful too. It'll get your attention if you fall. And so it was fun to see our buddy catch that wave. The whole channel was screaming and freaking out when Taylor caught it. And still, I have to say that might have been the biggest paddling wave ever. I don't think anyone's outdone it yet.
And how big can it get? Well, similar to Mavericks, the ledge at Todos Santos loses its shape in 80 feet of water. As such, we calculate that Todos Santos Island can produce rideable waves up to 85 feet on the face before they begin to close out.
And now we go to the Cortez Bank, located about 100 miles west of San Diego, California. Cortez Bank is in a league of its own. There had been rumors for years of massive waves breaking in the middle of the ocean from fishermen who ventured into these dangerous waters. Throughout the 1990s, Larry Moore of Surfing Magazine flew numerous reconnaissance trips in a private plane to shoot aerial photos of these huge waves produced by large swells, which were forecasted by Sean Collins of Surfline. Sean and Larry then compared the photos with Surfline's wave data and researched the local conditions and the underwater topography of Cortez Bank to determine the best swells needed to produce these mammoth waves.
Cortez Bank really is in a league of its own. The ocean floor at Cortez is amazing. The water depth rises from a mile deep to this peak of an underwater island which is only 6 feet below the ocean surface. Swells out of the west and northwest can run along the entire length of this 20-mile underwater island to converge massive amounts of wave energy over the shallower water. There's also a corner in the last mile of reef before the waves break, which radically increases the wave energy, especially on swells with long swell periods. Cortez Bank is like this huge magnifying glass that focuses all of the wave energy in the area towards this one little tiny spot. Thanks to Larry's aerial reconnaissance trips out there, we were able to figure out what kind of swells were needed to score big, perfect waves at Cortez. It is so exposed out there too, we also learned that we couldn't go out there when there might be multiple swells running. But the biggest problem out there was the wind, which typically blows over 20 knots 360 days a year. You can't surf big waves when it's windy, and the last thing you want to do is drop into a 60-foot wave and have another 60-foot wave coming at you. So we needed to combine a huge single swell from one direction, which may only happen a few times a year on a day with light winds so the water conditions are smooth. Well, I guess you can see why it took us 10 years to get it.
Getting on a boat and heading out on a 20-foot seas in the middle of the night is definitely not what I call a smart move, but we had a good captain, so it was cool. But when you start setting out to sea, heading out the harbor, that's when you realize you're going, hey, I'm going in the unknown, here we go. A blast off.
We arrived in the dark in the morning, and it was like, I just remember waking up and hearing the captain say, "Yeah, you can see waves on the radar. Man, it must be big." You know, I was just like, "Oh wow," you know, and just all the factors of the unknowns. You know, we're in the middle of the ocean, and
here we are, Cortez Bank. Took us all night and a couple stalls, but we're here. We're in the middle of the ocean right now, 100 miles from land. Never been on the ocean this far in my life. I'm out here surfing. What the fuck am I doing?
What? Look at that! And just, you know, no lineup spots. And
you didn't have any real indicators. Up to the north, there was a couple of other little bombies that would break, but it wouldn't necessarily tell you that a set was going to be coming where you're at. And when the sets did come, they were bam, right on you.
We actually thought about throwing buoys in the lineup at first, because you obviously have these big long lulls, and then all of a sudden you've got a set coming with 50-foot waves or bigger, you know. So you're sitting out there in the middle of the ocean, you turn the ski off, it's all quiet and peaceful. There's, you know, these seals around, and
I saw a shark in the water looking at another fish, and it was like getting pulled, you know, and they were starting to make the corner, and I was like, "Oh, is that a shark?" Whoop.
It kind of builds up the mountain and then breaks on and the top's real flat too. The reef seems to be real flat, so when it comes up, it just kind of comes up and grows and grows and grows. And I think a lot of it too, when you get the wrap, that's why the end bowl was so much bigger, because you're getting a little bit of wrap and loading up on itself and kind of on top of the mountain.
Inside peak has more of a huge peak where you can, once they make the wave, you go into the flats and you're safe. That's where you're deep water and it's like hitting the end zone. You're like, whoo, made it.
When it was my turn to drive him, I had this like watch this. This is how you drive. This is how you put your boy into the wave. And the first wave was that 60-foot wave or whatever the hell it was. I was like, okay, you want this thing? And it was like, yep, you know, and it was his first wave in 2 weeks. And I just put him over there and went, check this. Woo! There you go.
Now we're at Parsons. That was big. Look at this second one.
I think we both went away from that day going, that was the best day of surfing in my life, and we both had it right at the same. It was cool. It's been 2 or 3 years now, and still it pops into my head all the time.
We were buzzing for like a month afterwards.
Yeah.
And how big can it get? Well, the reef holds its shape down to about 1,000 feet deep. So that would convert to a wave maybe 1,000 feet high, but that's not a very realistic number. That would require a 200-foot swell to hit the reef just from the right direction. But it is possible to have a wave up to 150 feet on the face with good shape at Cortez Bank. The contours of the reef and the ocean floor would certainly support it. A 25 to 30-foot swell hitting Cortez Bank could magnify 5 to 6 times greater than its original wave height in deep water. Needless to say, it's questionable whether a surfer could even ride a 150-foot wave. But then again, 10 years ago we didn't think we'd be riding 60-foot waves. And today, there are already many surfers looking for 100-foot waves.
Romantically and now, forces my weapon, death, that place, and scenario by the sense, amorous intense, fragrant trigger. You collapse as a whistle shouts out of victory. Now you send me, now the paranoid, it is growing up. I think I need space. Starting to get to know you, but I only got to know your face. Springtime makes me eager when every deception inspires invention. Sun to wake up. Lifting up your weight, take and anticipate. I don't seem to wonder why it always seems to blow up in my face. I'm counting on it, fresh counterfeit. Press till you become annoyed with me. I'll cost you daily, stop by unexpected. The off chance you'd enter the void.